After reading these and editing them, I've come to the conclusion that I do need to probably put a viewer discretion is advised at the beginning. Some of these stories are graphic, and some of these are very upsetting. So, you have been warned. Let's begin. I should write a book about my paramedic days. I posted this in a different Reddit and had quite the response. Thought I'd share it here as well. Retired paramedic here. Had a call on a very desolate stretch of road for a car sitting in the middle of the road, covered in blood. Of course, it also happened to be 2 a.m., just like every other horror story. We arrived on scene to find this new Camaro sitting in the middle of the road that had obviously been in an accident. Problem is, there was absolutely nothing else around the car. No persons, no other vehicles, nothing. Part of my job then was a tactical paramedic for our sheriff's department. Sounds all exciting and high speed, low drag. No, not as a medic. I got paid to wait for stuff to happen and sit in the rear with my gear. This being said, my paramedic partner and I both had pistols in the ambulance. As we started to approach this Camaro, my partner is shining the light around when he says really low, hushed and rushed, "Back, back, back, back. Now, now, now." He says, I shine my light in the car, and there were intestines wrapped around the gear shifter and the lungs in the back seat. So we kind of freaked out, called dispatch, let them know what's happening, and we were in the process of getting out of there till the cop showed up when we see a figure appear walking down the road towards us. As he gets closer, we see him covered in blood and gore. We both throw on our tactical vests, helmets, and snatch our pistols, as I sound like a frightened Home Alone 9-year-old on the radio to dispatch. We approach and start screaming at him to get on the ground, which he does. After everyone's heart rate is below 200 beats per minute, we start walking to the figure. We start talking and figure out what happened. The guy had purchased a new Camaro and drove it to a desolate stretch of road to open it up. He said 1 minute he is shifting gears, and the next thing he knows is the car is all over the road, and his mouth was full of blood, and it seemed like an explosion had gone off. I start looking his injuries over, and can't really see anything major, and ask him about the passenger in his car. He says, "What passenger?" My partner says that there's a lung in your backseat. Dude goes straight into a mental overload and can't come up with anything. So I'm thinking he's hurt. Get him to the ambulance. Police are about 5 minutes away. We potentially have another victim out here. I have to go look by myself. I walk through the crash scene, look into the car, and sure enough, intestines were wrapped around that gear shifter. A lung in the back seat. Looks like part of a liver. Looks like a hand grenade went off inside of this car. I walk around the other side and see faint blood smear and stains on the road. Walk to it. See something else further down the road. I finally see something on the side of the road and run up to it. Honestly, completely freaked out and scared to the death about the body I was about to see. And this dude had hit a deer. A fucking deer. What happened was, when he was winding out this car, state police estimated him going over at least 100 miles per hour. A deer jumped out in front of his car, the pathway, and hit the top corner of the windshield with its stomach. When the windshield crashed, it created a negative vacuum into the car, sucking almost all of the deer's organs out and into the car and over him. I had the fire department decontaminate him, wrapped him in some blankets, and took him to the hospital. For many, many years after this, my wonderful 911 dispatchers happily played the recording for anyone who wished to hear it. So yeah, here's my very messed up story. Hope you enjoy. Before I start off this story, please keep in mind that it all is a jumbled mess in my mind. I've tried to forget about it over and over, and it's just this memory in the back of my head. I don't remember too many details, other than the very specific moments, so trying to put this into a story format is a little hard. Either way, here goes nothing. It was a warm summer day, about 2 or 3 years ago, when me and my friend, we will name him Tom for the sake of keeping his name private. He doesn't want anything to do with this. We were sent out to a call of an elderly woman thinking that somebody was in her house. We get calls like this all the time, and it's often something simple as a house settling or the water systems, and the woman reports this. She reports that she hadn't seen anybody, but we went to check it out nonetheless. There was one slight problem, however. The address that we were given doesn't exist. I asked the operator to repeat the address after hearing it the first time, and she told me that the woman had specifically stated that address. Again, this stuff happens all the time with people because they forget their own address, or in a panic they say the wrong thing on the phone. Tom and I were told, just go to the next closest address and look for a little pink house, because that's how the elderly woman described it. Tom and I considered the possibility of it being a prank call and decided that it probably was. We should track down this call and talk to this kid's parents if it really is. As we got close to this given address, to our surprise, there was a little pink house. A 2-story house to be exact. It was something straight out of a 50s movie, with the white picket fence in the front, a little rocking chair on the front porch, and a mini garden hanging from the awning. But it wasn't what we expected when we were told to look for the pink house. It was Asian. The paint looked like it was being washed off by hard weather over many years to where the light brown of the wood was shown through. It was chipping off in so many places, and the walls were in so much despair. It looked like it was going to topple over at any second. Tom and I got quickly out of the car, spending probably a little bit too long looking at the house, and walked up to the door to knock. As my knuckles hit against the wood, it creaked open. It was already unlocked and open. I called out into the house as to not alarm this woman, with a simple, "This is the police. Come out with your arms up." This was also to get any possible house invaders out in the open. Something wasn't right, though. There was an indescribable feeling as soon as we stepped foot inside that house, almost as if we were walking into a party without knowing anyone there, as if we just didn't belong. The inside of the house was exactly how you would expect after seeing the outside. It was a scene straight out of the 50s, but it was all so much with despair, like all of the furniture and the paintings had been left to rot and fall apart with the house. The light didn't work, so we brought our flashlights and walked around to investigate. Tom searched the ground floor, and I decided to go upstairs. This is truly when something felt really, really wrong. With each step of the stairs, felt heavier and heavier to climb, as if the whole house was leaning against me. Each step creaked its little tune, and the walls seemed to bend and arch over my head as I got closer and closer to the top of the stairs. I was sweating and my vision was fading, and as soon as it had all started, it stopped when I reached the top. It felt like I had walked multiple miles to get up the staircase, and at this point I was heavying and leaning against the top of the rail. The top floor was very simple and was only one room. The stairs led up to a landing, which curved to the right to a little hallway with a single room. I will never forget what I saw in there. As I walked down this hallway, still catching my breath, I slowly walked towards the room and turned into the doorway. Standing in the middle of the room was nothing. And I truly mean nothing. It was a void. That nothing turned to me, and the saying, "Stare into the abyss long enough, and the abyss will stare into you," was giving a whole new meaning. It didn't look at me. It looked through me. And suddenly I didn't feel right. For a moment I didn't feel like I was supposed to exist. That this house was right and I was wrong. For a brief, very brief moment, I felt like walking into that nothing. That was until Tom grabbed me and pulled me out of that room. He shut the door as fast as possible, and I looked at him, and he gave me a look I could only recognize as. I saw it too. Nothing phases me. After all of this work that I've done and all of the calls I've been on, there is never a surprise. But that terrified both of us. We got back into the car and reported back to the station, asking backup in case of an emergency. But the next second we looked out the window, the house was gone. It was as if it had never existed. The others arrived to the scene and looked at us, as if we each had 3 eyes. It became a running joke at the office, each and every time we got a call. But it was soon forgotten by everyone but Tom and I. I don't care what the hell the report says. According to it, there was never an elderly woman, and there was never a pink house. But we know what we saw, and I believe someone is trying to cover it up. The little pink house is somewhere. We are your first responders. We are the lifeline you reach out to when you dial the phone. We are the voice of reasoning, the instructors, the therapists, the sympathizers. We are brothers, sisters, friends, and family. We are the voice you hear when you dial 911. I have worked dispatch for 6 years now, and I am a volunteer paramedic every other weekend. Linda and I have been here the longest, to be honest. This job takes its toll on you, and most people don't last more than a year. You must learn to turn off when you leave your shift. You have to learn to leave the heartbreak and anger at your desk when the day is done. You still have to go home to your own family, and you cannot take the darkness with you. I have heard every horror imaginable. I heard you scream for help. Your voice echoed against the wall of the bathroom where you had locked yourself away from your violent husband. I heard him beating on the door, his words slurred, and his anger growling and growing. I heard you call for her. You were pleading with her to wake up. I walked you through chest compressions, counting for you while you pound on her chest with as much strength as you could. You were only 11. I cried with you. I listened to you as you poured your heart out to me. A faceless voice on the other end of the line. He had abused you since you were 6. You did not deserve to feel this lost. You did not deserve to feel this alone. No one else knew your reasons, except for me. I told you I cared. I told you we could help you. You thanked me for listening. Paramedics arrived around 3 minutes after you jumped. You have to learn there is only so much that you can do. Without darkness, there is no light. There are candles in the dark. You only have to call. I work the night shift and have for the past 1.5 years. The worst calls seem to come at night. I've heard them all. I've learned to leave these stories at my desk when I go home. However, some of those stories refuse to leave me. Her name was Emma, and her brother's name was David. Where we live, we are outside of the edges of Tornado Alley. In my 6 years, we have only had 3 that caused any true damage. The worst one was last year. I remember that night clear as a bell. There were 4 dispatchers on the floor. Me, Will, Donna, and Lily. I remember it was cool that evening. The Weather Channel stated that there were storms headed our way, and the possibility of tornadoes. To be prepared. The tornado hit ground at 11:34 p.m. that night. Her call came in at 11:27. City Dispatch, this is Tara. What is your emergency? Can you tell my mommy she needs to come home now? Her voice was small. She seemed too unsure of herself. My name is Tara. What's your name? Emma. She needs to come home now. David is crying. How old are you, Emma? Do you know your address? I'm 6. David is 4. He doesn't like all the noise. Can you tell her to come home now? Honey, I'm going to do everything that I can for you. What's your address? What is your mommy's name? Her name is Amy Parker. We live at 629 Maple Street. I want her to come home now. Do you know where your mommy is right now, Emma? Is your daddy there with you? Daddy died last year. Mommy is with Daryl tonight. They go out on dates a lot. David won't stop crying. Are you alone? Is there any grown-up with you? David is with me. He's my brother. He's 4. Okay, sweetie. I'm sending a police officer out to you. It will be about 10 minutes before he gets there, because he's a little ways away. Don't be scared. I'll stay on the phone with you until he gets there. Okay. Don't you think he can bring Mommy with him? I don't know how to make David stop crying. Is David hurt? Is that why he's crying? No, he doesn't like the dark. I gave him my flashlight, but he wants Mommy. Why is it dark? Are your lights not working? The power had gone out in random parts of the city due to the storm. They turned off. They came back on, but they turned right back off really fast. And now it's dark. Okay, it will be okay. Why don't you hold his hand and sing to him while I try to find your mommy, okay? It's gonna be quiet on my end for a minute, but I am still here and I can hear you. So if you need me, just talk to me, okay? Okay. I could hear her sing softly. Softly to her little brother. She was singing Wheels on the Bus. I pulled up all the information I could to find Emma's mother. There was a lot. Prostitution, drug paraphernalia, 2 DWIs, and multiple narcotic charges. There were reports of her leaving her children at home alone in the past. Why does she still have custody of her kids? It had begun to rain hard outside. I could hear the rain beating against our roof, like small marbles on sheets of tin. I heard the thunder through my headset. The children screamed. Emma, it's okay. It's just thunder. Are you guys still inside? Yes, I don't like it. I want Mommy to come home. Did you find her? Not yet, sweetie. But we will. It's okay to be scared. I'm right here. We will find your Mommy. She seemed a bit relieved, but my heart broke for her. 6 years old and forced to sit out of this horrendous storm, alone with her little brother, while their mom was out doing God knows what. What is that noise? Is that the police officer? I checked my monitor. Officer Johnson was still about 5 minutes away. What noise? What does it sound like? It sounds like Weir. Just as she had begun to explain what she had heard, my screen began to flash. Tornado warning. Officer Johnson called in. He could see the tornado. The strength of the wind had forced him off the road. He couldn't go any further. Emma, that sound means there's a tornado coming. I need you to hurry. I need you to go into the bathroom right now. Take David with you. You need to get in the bathtub. And hurry. David, come here. Mommy will be here in a minute. We need to go to the bathroom. I heard her fumble with the phone as she pulled her brother into the bathroom. The phone won't reach the bathtub. It's okay, just set it down. I'll stay here. Hurry, get into the bathtub and lay down. Hold on to each other. It will be over soon. It's going to be very loud for a few minutes, but you'll be okay. I'm right here with you. I heard Emma begin to cry. She was trying so desperately to be brave for her little brother. Her voice cracked as she comforted him. It's okay, David. They found Mommy. The police officer's bringing Mommy home. That was the moment that time stopped. Her comforting words to her brother turned to muffled screams. I could hear the tornado siren through the phone now. The only way I know how to describe what that sound was of a tornado is compared to a train. A train coming full speed at you from the sky. The window shattered. I could hear the slamming of doors, and the wind blew through their house. I heard the god-awful shriek as the house began to twist away from its foundation. I gasped. Tears were pouring freely from my eyes as I held my hands over my mouth. It sounded like an explosion. Shattering glass, the snapping of wooden beams, the crash of furniture, the sounds of a home disintegrating. I heard them scream for their mommy one last time before the line went dead. Paramedics determined their death almost instantaneously. As I said before, I have learned to turn off the feelings and the emotion when I come to this job. But Emma and her baby brother struck a chord with me. Yes, it was heartbreaking that they died. But what's worse is they died alone. They died alone and terrified, screaming for their absent mother. We found out later that night she was passed out drunk in a parking lot outside of the local bar. I went by their graves a few months later. There were no headstones, only a small metal placard with their names. Their mother smoked up all of the money that was donated to her for their headstones. Those poor babies. I went back to work that night, ready for the new string of emergency calls. I knew what was expected of me. I knew that this life at work was separate from my real life. I had to separate myself from the darkness. It was slow. 2 domestic violences and a burglary. I felt the shift would go pretty quickly. 11:27. City Dispatch, this is Tara. What is your emergency? Can you tell my mommy she needs to come home now? I sat there, stunned. It was her voice. A knot formed in my throat. Emma? She needs to come home now. David is crying. Emma, is your name Emma? Mommy isn't gonna make it home tonight, is she? She sounded so defeated. The sounds of the tornado rushed through the phone line again. Emma and David's screams sounded so far away, overpowered by the noise of the force of the wind that was barreling down on them. Everything played out as same as it did a few months ago. The line went dead. I checked my monitor. It was Emma's phone number, Emma's address. There was no house left where she was calling from. She's dead. I had imagined it. It had to be a prank call. I fell asleep for a minute at my desk. I ran through a million different possibilities. But deep down, I knew the truth. It was her. She has called me 6 more times since that night. Each time I try something new, thinking that somehow I can alter the past, that maybe this time they will live. Maybe this time, Mommy will make it home in time. Maybe this time, they'll survive. It always ends the same. I will never be able to save her. There are so many other stories, other strange oddities that I have noticed during my time working dispatch, but Emma's was the one that cut me the deepest. There is no way to explain how or why she keeps calling me from the grave, but I'm there for her every time. Every time. Maybe I'll take the time to write down a few more of my experiences that I've had. After 6 years of working dispatch, I have witnessed many unexplainable things. Now, I normally don't do this, but I really want to say we really should appreciate those first responders and dispatchers and the first to arrive on scene. The stuff that they have to go through, they go home with, and all of the trauma that they have to deal with, they take home in their head. My hat will always be off to them. Much love to them, and a very high respect from me to them. Thanks for watching. I really hope you enjoyed it. This is a very hard topic for some people. So, if you made it all the way through, I truly appreciate you for sticking all the way through. These stories really do need to be told, and they do need to have light shed on them of what they have to go through. If you would like to hear more of these, make sure to let me know down in the comment section. Make sure to like, comment, and if you did like this, make sure to subscribe. We're doing nothing but growing. I've got a lot of content and a lot more, so just know that. If you would like to, I will be posting more stories kind of like this one on the channel member section on my channel. There's going to be bonus content, bloopers, stuff like that. So just know that. But with that being said, make sure to check out the links in the description, like my Twitter, Instagram, and my Gmail if you have a story that you would like to submit. I would love to tell anybody's story on here. Stay safe, stay scary, and I'll see you in the next one.